Good afternoon and welcome to You and Your Business with me, Alec, through on 103.2 Dublin City FM. Each week I invite an expert from the world of business to talk about their knowledge, expertise and skills to help you with your business challenges. If there's a topic you would like covered, or if you feel you can make a contribution, please email me at yourbusiness@dublincityfm.ie and perhaps we'll be having a chat here one day soon. My guest today is the CEO of Nuvie Consulting. She's also the founder of EventBooth, an innovative platform for event listings and event ticket sales. And she's a member of BNI, Women in Business, and a division director at Toastmasters International. I'm delighted to welcome Angela Afieghe to the You and Your Business studio. Hi, Angela.
Hi, Alec.
There we go. You're a busy person, and we're going to find out how busy you are as we go through this, because we've had a quick chat, and I think our audience will be fascinated. But I'm going to take you back, as you know, to your last year in school. You had something in mind. I know you, engineering, if I'm not mistaken. Tell us a bit about that. What sort of provoked you into engineering, and what type of engineering?
Great question, Alec. Thank you very much for having me, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes, so my first degree was in engineering. What really spiked that idea? I think it was my dad. So my dad will be a strong disciplinarian and he had this flair for education. And back home in Nigeria, our parents always had this thing of having a daughter or a son as a doctor, lawyer, engineer, or an accountant. So they were very crazy about the profession that they wanted their kids to be. So I think dad really was the one that brought that into my mind and pushed it forward, really.
Yeah, good. Well, I think parents are always keen to motivate their children into, some form of extra education to take them, because we all develop through life. It's actually quite a long degree, actually. It's about 5 years, isn't it?
Yes, it is 5 years. So it was electronics and computer engineering.
Yes. Wow. And if I'm not mistaken, you were getting a bit distracted in the third year. Business was calling to you.
Yes. But at that stage, that was my 300 level. And I could only confide in my very close friends. I wasn't bold enough to bring it home to let mommy or daddy know what was in mind. Yeah, so in my third year, I felt I was doing the wrong course. And I should have spent my time learning how to do a business. Because in between, even in college, I was always doing a lot of buying and selling, and I enjoyed that a lot, yes. So I really enjoyed that a lot. So even at that stage, up until my graduation, even, I wasn't sure what I was going to be doing as an engineer. I wasn't really sure where I was going to work, but I just went with it as it was going.
Right. Well, okay, at least you kept the peace at home with your parents, so they were quite happy for you to qualify and do all of that. But you were going to take a year out at the end of it. Most of us do. Tell our audience what you were going to do.
Well, I took the year. So in Nigeria, it's a compulsory year for voluntary. And I got a job at the bank, and it was for the 1 year, and it was in the IT department of the bank. And that was very interesting because that exposed me more into the world of computer, server management, and the likes. It was very interesting too because I learned project management, or got a bit of project management experience in that role, and was working on a lot of IT projects. That spiked my interest in project management and led me to go on to take a master's in project management with University of Liverpool, and also prompted the need for my project management certification, which is the PMP.
Yes, and it wasn't just that was keeping you occupied. If that wasn't enough to keep most people going, and you also spotted another opportunity as well.
Yes. So while I was working in that corporate environment, I realized that a lot of us used to come into work as early as 7, and sometimes we don't even finish or get back home till like 9. And well, as mothers and women, we still need our cooking to be done. We still need to go shopping from work and after work. So that was tough. And I thought the need to create this platform, which was called Food Alcove at the time. And Food Alcove was a grocery shop. We sell food, meats, poultry, and all that. And that was very good. It was very successful. because it worked well. I had a lot of clients from my office that was patronizing me. And subsequently, I had two big shops in the eyebrow of Lagos. The area was called Lekki. Expensive area, but the enough sales to meet up the expense that was coming from the shop. So yeah.
I mean, you saw an opportunity, which is great. This is what business is all about, spotting opportunities and then supplying a need that people have. It requires a lot of work, though. I mean, you're working long hours in the bank, so you obviously had to learn to delegate and manage a business. So that must have been quite interesting.
Yes, it actually was. So the good thing that worked for me at the time was I had everything in the plan, and I took my time to draw out the plan before I started executing it. So it was very easy to follow through because I had a plan. And recruitment really was outsourced at the time. I had to get someone to do the recruitment for me because I wasn't available to do the initial selection. And so at the time, I had to talk to the people that was working for me in the team. They had been, well, I suppose, gone through a couple of levels of the interviews, and it was very easy for me to make my pick and choose with the team of people that I was working with. So knowing what I want helped me a lot.
And it must have been interesting because for all intents and purposes, you're an absent owner of a business. I mean, they're not going to see you that often.
Oh yes, I couldn't afford to see them that often because I still had to keep my day job for a while. And well, I saw them at the weekends, but that didn't last so long because I had the plan of leaving the workforce and focusing on the business as quickly as I could. And at some point I was going down that lane until I went out again, and on one networking event, I met an old school friend, and he was in the telecom sector, and I was telling him what I was doing with the IT department of the bank and what I had with the food business. And he was saying, and told him I was going to resign. And he said that was really very interesting because if I could accommodate it, that he had another proposal for me. So that was very good. And I listened to it. It sounded very interesting. It was something different. And I thought I could, tap into the opportunity. Do you want me to talk to you about that?
Yeah, it's interesting because you kind of mentioned before that your sort of project management interest was certainly ignited while working there in the bank, and now you're going to move this on. So the telecoms, piece of business actually turned out to be quite significant in a sense of what you were able to act on and the business that was sent to you. Maybe tell us a bit about that, what you were doing there.
So that was so it was mainly getting the contracts from, so at the time it was Alcatel Lucent, Globacom Nigeria, and Airtel. So Airtel and Globacom will be like the Vodafone in Ireland and the O2 in Ireland.
Yes.
Alcatel, we all know Alcatel. So Alcatel Nigeria had a lot of those contracts. So what we did then was to build base stations in different locations in Nigeria, the north and south regions. And my own role was to work with other teams to deliver those projects. So I had to recruit engineers, riggers, I had to recruit admin people that were working with me from the office as well and execute those projects. It was a very interesting one because it brought me life into project management. And it was good because I had to put all the things I had learned, into practice. And well, there was no one having to push me around. I knew that I had to get those delivery dates met, and I had to work with a plan. So that was very good experience for me too.
And if you're just joining us now, you're listening to You and Your Business with me, Alec Drew, on 103.2 Dublin City FM, where my guest today is Angela Afieghe. We're just talking about the contract you had in Nigeria, and you had about 100 base stations. So that must have taken quite a number of years to put together. Plus also all of the, as you said, the project management side must have been really challenging because it was all over the country, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Well, I had different project managers to manage different regions and sites. So that's worked really well.
And what would you say was the biggest learning you took from all of that in working with so many people and having them reporting into you?
Hmm. I think first of all, I learned that the customers are always right. And so it was then I think I learned that leadership is more of service than anything else, And I learned to work more with people's time than mine, So you can get different calls at different times of people within your team that you're not expecting and things are having to change. So you have to really move and change with the way things are evolving.
Yes, of course. And it must have been also challenging sort of dealing with a large contract like that and sourcing materials and again, firing and hiring people. It presents many challenges.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does. All right. I mean, this has all worked out well, but there's a change coming on the horizon. You're going to leave Nigeria and come to Ireland.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that because I mean, culturally, it must have been a huge change and challenge for you in terms of the way we do business here and how you are doing business.
Yes, so that was huge. It was a huge change. It was change in my career, in everything, And there was a lot of having to unlearn and relearn, involved in it. So when I came in at the start, it was very difficult to get back into IT and project management and just diving into business. So I saw the need to, first of all, make money to put food on the table for my children. And the quickest way, I knew of at the time, was going back to relearn something new that could bring money quickly. And healthcare support was what I could do. So I went on to do my FITAC level 5, and I worked as a healthcare support worker, like healthcare assistant for different agencies. So I worked with TTM at the time. So I was sent to hospitals and homes, and that was very interesting too. I learned a lot. I learned about giving. I learned about a lot of things, on that role. I thought that was good. But subsequently, after about 18 months, I had to move on back into my IT career. So I went back to DBS to study IT networks and infrastructure.
Right.
And that was like going back to college again. And it was interesting, met a lot of wonderful people. Then after that, I got into HSC as an IT project manager.
Okay, well, we'll just talk about that in a second, if you don't mind, Angela. I just want to talk about, because there's some lessons to be learned in life. Sometimes, there you are running a business, a successful business in Nigeria. You find yourself in Ireland and really starting from the ground up. You have to do healthcare work, but again, money is needed to cover the basics. But at the same time, you have a need for more education, which you're able to put yourself through college. And I think there's a lot of lessons for people out there to learn that, sometimes the mighty sometimes do fall and have to start again. I think anybody who's run a business would be well familiar with that one. So, I mean, okay, you've now done your degree, but you've spotted an opportunity with the HSE. So let's pick it up from there, what that was all about.
Yes, so it was managing IT projects. So it was very similar to what I would have been doing in the banks, but this was more project management focused. So that was quite interesting. I worked with several different hospitals, managing different projects for those hospitals. That was good. But that job ended not at the start of COVID, though, after about 2 years, and it was during COVID, and COVID was really the reason why they had to let go of some contractors. And
Yes, of course. Yeah.
So at that time, it was okay because I had put in to do my MBA in
Right.
technology. So it was a good time to start off with the MBA and see where that was going to take me. So that was another thing. Again, I was thinking very much of going back into the business world in Ireland and going to the management side of IT if I have to, right?
Yes.
And I thought that there was a need to learn how business is done in Ireland. There was a need to learn, the culture and, a lot of things generally as it relates to business and, my new location. So I went on to do the MBA.
Right. Let's just talk about project management, because a lot of people have a misconception about project management. Maybe in your own words, you might just talk a bit about project management and what are the keys to its success.
Well, I suppose product management, I always describe it like it's very easy, and everybody keeps telling me not to think about it like that. But is basically ensuring that everything is planned properly, implemented properly, and delivered properly to specification. Now, in talking about specification, some people will say, oh, just quality. No, there's quality, there's cost, and there's time. So for me, if the project meets that specification and is delivered not within the time frame, that project has failed.
Right.
So it's useful to take into account the cost of the project, how the project is planned and delivered, the quality, the specification that the sponsor or whoever owns the project wants, and so the time, the cost, and the schedule, costs, and budgets. Yeah, I get that.
And if you're just joining us now, you're listening to You and Your Business with me, Alec Drew, on 103.2 Dublin City FM, where my guest today is Angela Afieghe. All right, project management, of course, as you said, it has to be to specification, it has to be on time, and it has to be in budget. Okay, so we've three keys. And then also you have to be wise enough to plan for contingencies, where you have an understanding, a deep understanding of what potentially could go wrong, and have a plan in place to deal with it.
Yeah, that's very key. So part of the ways, or an easier way to manage that, is to have a register. And as you're going along, because a lot of things happen. So within project management now, it will be called progressive elaboration. So as you go, things unfold, and things that, well, you didn't plan for come. So as you're going along the way, you document those risks and, well, the ways that you mitigate this risk as they arise. Sometimes it looks like a lot of documentation, but it helps in the very long run if one can pay attention to just those little tiny details.
Yes, it's amazing. Good documentation is always very important, because from everybody's point of view, they learn as they go along. If you're not taking notes, how will you remember for the next project that's similar what has happened in the previous one and what we learned from it?
Yeah.
All right. So obviously you like project management, you like doing it. But this was then going to kind of bring you forward. You're not a person who likes to stand still, and you've always new business ideas. And so now you've got your newly polished MBA to go along with this. So you set up Nuvie Consulting. Talk about that and what your ambitions were for that.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, Nuvie Consulting, at the start of it, where we are now is not where we plan to be at the start. So at the start of it, it was set up to work with new businesses to grow, to help them grow. So part of the things I did for the business consulting, the IT consulting I had in Nigeria, was to work with little businesses, work with them when they're doing their business plans, their business profiles. If you're looking to do proposals for projects, I always used to work with them to get that done. So that was what I had in mind when I set up Nuvie Consulting. But as the business was going, well, different things came to mind and different things evolved. And so where we are now, we are at the stage where we are developing products for Nuvie Consulting. So part of what we do is build technical solutions for organizations, right? So our recent baby is EventBooth. That's
right.
an interesting project. I love, it's very close to my heart because I love events management. So it's me bringing my passion for event management, my IT expertise and knowledge, and bringing it into play with EventBooth. So with EventBooth, I had worked with a team of people to plan a conference earlier on in the year. And in planning that conference, I recognized that there was a gap in terms of a central location, first of all, to find event organizers or vendors. That was one. And that same gap, I had always seen it coming to play a lot of times when I want to plan parties, because I plan a lot of destination parties, right?
Right.
So I thought that would be a good solution to have. And as we continued with planning the conference, I realized too that it was very difficult to find templates on event templates, as it related to the conference. So I found that towards the end of the conference, I was running helter-skelter. Oh, I think we'll need a flag. Oh, I think a photo booth would be nice, but it would have been nicer if I had one whole sheet that had all the requirements that I needed, and maybe just needed to add a few things. So I thought that would have been one of the features to add. So EventBooth now currently does tickets listing, tickets validation, ticket sales, and has a planners hub where event planners can list themselves and be found easily within the same environment. So it's meant to make event management as easy and seamless as much as possible, so that the organizers will have a very good experience planning their events and they are not overwhelmed at the end of the event.
It's interesting you're talking about this, because I mean, the whole purpose of this show is to talk about people, where they came from to where they are now, and the stepping stones. And sort of looking at that, I'm thinking to myself, okay, the electronics and the engineering side is very precise, and it's about being organized and having everything in a sequence so it works. You set up the food business in response to a need, which was to supply people who couldn't get out and do things, and you found a better way to deliver that. Then you got an interest in IT and telecoms, which brought you eventually to Ireland, and then through the healthcare and the PSA and one thing and another where you are. It's interesting, the stepping stones have taken you. Now you can hear when you talk about it, the passion you have for this. And really what you're using here is your project management skills to put in one place all of the things that you believe people who organize conferences will need.
Yeah, so conferences, parties, trainings. So everything I think that people that plan and manage events will generally need will be encompassed in EventBooth.
Right. How long has it been set up?
Well, it's just launched yesterday.
Oh, right. Very good.
Yeah, so I think it's a good time to let the world know.
Yes, it is. And what prompted you kind of to set that up? I know you mentioned that you were finding bits here, there, and everywhere, but you've obviously had to bring together a lot of people that are on the platform, have you?
Yeah, a lot of event vendors, right, on the platform. Yes. So like I said, it was always difficult. So if I plan destination parties, for example, I find it difficult to find photographers. I had one that I planned in Cancun last year and another one in Jamaica, right? So it was difficult to find the photographers that will cover the event. It was difficult to find someone to make us cake. And we're all going from Ireland and the UK. It was going to be very difficult to take those people that we'll need, So generally, if there was a central hub where those people could be found, I thought it would have made my life easier. Even as close as Malta is to us, when I planned an event in Malta, I had to scout. I spent days, looking for organizers and different elements for my events. But yeah.
And tell me, what is the sort of customer profile that you're looking for this particular platform?
Oh, so well, I suppose different profiles in terms of the corporate people looking to hold conferences, people like Toastmasters, for example, that have meetings, and because they could use for free events, it's really free. But if you're selling tickets, then there is a fee for the processing fee for the tickets. So I'll be looking at people that are having contests, conferences, trainings, like sports events, tech events, those kind of events. So any kind of event in general where they are going to sell tickets.
Right. And so therefore you've put the infrastructure in. So can you take the payments for the tickets and issue the validations and all of that?
Yes. So we have a vendor space within EventBooth, and that's the vendor space takes care of the validation of the tickets. The vendor has the scanner to scan all the tickets to admit people into the event. So if it's a physical event, EventBooth is there to do the work. And if it's a virtual event, it can work as well.
And tell me about the travel element. You were talking about some of these events overseas. How is that made more simple for people?
Yeah, so if they're coming to we have eventsbooth.ie, we have the .co.uk, we have the .com. So I'm hoping or expecting that even people abroad will list themselves on the site. So if you're having a party, for example, in another country, all you need to do is search by location and type in what you're looking for, who you're looking for, and you find the person within the EventBooth platform.
And where can people find out more about that?
We have a hub on the website.
Yes. And so therefore, so eventbooth.ie would be the one locally to us here.
Yes, in Ireland. So that's eventbooth.ie in Ireland, and eventboothgroup.co.uk in the UK, and .com for America and anywhere else around the world.
So if I was to ask you what your vision for the business is, if we look over the next 2 to 3 years, what would you tell me?
Okay, great question. So my vision for it really is where I think is going in the next 2 to 3 years. I intend to look at adding more features that will help event planners and organizers. I intend to look at, so it's bringing more value to the people, the community within the platform. So a lot of value will be added in terms of new, well, a lot of more templates. They'll have a lot of more templates to work with. They will have a larger community at the time. And we aim to always keep abreast with technology and the trends and the changes, you know, as we go on. So a word for them, or a promise to them, is that they will always be on top of their game. EventBooth is always going to be on top of its game in terms of events and management, and ensure that our customers are always very satisfied.
Good. Well, I think that's a great ambition. In the sort of 30 seconds we left, you haven't mentioned to people who are in the public speaking world, just that's a place for them as well, if there's people trying to source speakers, or if speakers want to be found.
Yes. So because a lot of those events, they need MCs, they need well, speakers, you know, and even for those conferences, people look out for guest speakers, and you find that it's very difficult to find them, and you're restricted because you might just know 1 or 2 personally. But EventBooth is going to be taking that off you now, and you can always find different people and those speakers on EventBooth.
Well, listen, what a great way to finish the show. A special thanks to our guest, Angela Afieghe, for coming into the studio. Thanks also to Stephen on sound. The podcast today's show will be available on dublincityfm.ie from tomorrow. Thank you for your company. And please remember to join me, Alec Drew, again next week at the same time, 1 o'clock, right here on 103.2 Dublin City FM for another edition of You and Your Business.
Thank you very much, Alec.
Now, there we go. That's it. We got through.